For a year now, I've been defending this man from all the hate he's been getting online. Is he possessive? Is he toxic? Is he MC's blood brother? Honestly, imagine my face when Infold dropped a baby sister right in our faces in the latest trailer.
My baby sister.
Like most of you, I was shocked by the audacity of bringing such a taboo theme to a game as massive as Love and Deepspace. My DMs exploded. Apple, how can you still love him? Well, hunters, I still love my hubby. But today, I'm going to explain exactly where I'm coming from. I'll show you how astrophysics, mythology, biology, theology, and linguistics prove that this isn't what it looks like. I even came up with a special term for them, and I'll be sharing it with you in just a bit. But first, a quick shout out. I pieced these clues together, but the Love and Deepspace community is incredible, and most of the theories you'll see here were built by brilliant players worldwide. I'll leave all links to the original posts in the description. Let's start with the question everyone's asking. Are Caleb and MC biological siblings? My answer? A definitive no. I know everything seems to point the other way, but I promise my arguments have a solid foundation. Stay with me, and you'll understand. Let's break Caleb's story into 3 sections. The story in Lincoln, his myth, and the new memory Imperial Throne Song. In the current timeline, there isn't much room for debate. They clearly aren't blood-related. You could argue they lived as adoptive siblings under Grandma Josephine's care. But the point here isn't social. It's whether they are biological siblings or not. And again, no, they don't share the same parents, and their legal status as adoptive sibling was dissolved after the accident, leaving them with no kinship ties at all. This is proven by a message MC receives right after Caleb's death at the beginning of the story. But, well, this specific legal detail was omitted from the English translation, since the English version originally localized him as a childhood friend. This document is actually a major milestone in their story. It's essentially the green light for a romantic relationship. If you look closely, in all the memories before that, Caleb never made a move. He was actually much more reserved about romance than MC herself, even though he clearly had romantic feelings for her.
Behave. Stop touching me.
But Apple, you might say. In the original language, she calls him brother, Gégē. Yes, she does. But we need to understand the cultural and linguistic context here. While the literal translation of Gégē is older brother, that doesn't quite capture the full weight of the term. Is it used for your biological brother? Yes, but it goes way beyond that. In many Asian cultures, including China, age carries a lot of weight and dictates how you interact with people. You rarely call someone older than you by their name. It would be seen as a sign of disrespect. Instead, using specific titles like Gégē for slightly older men is second nature. You can, and probably will, call your neighbor, your cousin, or even a senior at college Gégē. The meaning is closer to, you are a man of my generation whom I respect, and who has more experience than I do. But there are other layers to Gégē as well. Beyond the casual use, it's also used for someone you're very close to. For example, when 2 children grow up together, even if they aren't related, they'll use Gégē, older brother, and Mei, younger sister. This doesn't imply a blood relation. It establishes a bond of unwavering protection. The Gégē has a moral duty to protect the Mei, and that's exactly where Caleb and MC fit at the start of the story. This is also where I think Infold missed the mark by translating Gégē as friend, especially in the myth.
下一周是你的哥哥。
Caleb uses Gégē specifically to express that sense of duty and protection.
因为我是哥哥，哥哥就是愿意替妹妹死的。
It makes so much more sense when you look at the context. The final layer of Gégē is its romantic undertone. Yes, it is often used within a romantic relationship. It works much like the Korean oppa. In a romantic context, it means something like, you are my protector, my safe harbor, and the man I love. The uproar is understandable because when we hear baby sister, our Western minds immediately think, siblings and romance is wrong, period. But from an Eastern perspective, Gégē signals a bond of intimacy and protection that has been nurtured since childhood. Do you see how the language completely changes the interpretation? I should also add that in Chinese, if you want to specify that someone is your biological brother, you use specific terms like Qingge. Caleb and MC only ever use the general Gégē. There isn't a single word in English that truly captures the essence of what Caleb and MC mean to each other. But some might still feel uncomfortable. A romance with someone who acted like a brother? Well, actually, this is a very common narrative trope called pseudo-incest. In fiction, this refers to a dynamic where two characters are raised as siblings, or in the same household, but share no biological relation. The tension doesn't come from blood, since they aren't related, but from the shift in their social roles as they transition from childhood companions to something much deeper. Alright, so I present all this evidence, and then Infold hits us with this.
My baby sister.
It sounds like a dead end, right? Case closed? Not exactly. This is where things get interesting, because I'm going to show you why I truly believe they aren't blood siblings in the way you might think. The story of MC and Caleb is far deeper than a simple soap opera taboo. In the Imperial Throne Song memory, they use the term blood-related. In the original Chinese, the term is Jieyuan Xianglian. While this usually means biological kinship, the term actually describes a much deeper reality, an intertwining of essence and destiny at the root of their existence. It's not about having the same parents. It's about sharing the same source. Think about it from a scientific perspective. Standard human reproduction requires the union of two different sources, a mother and a father. But in science, there is also division. Think of it as a form of biological fission, much like mitosis, where a single source splits into two. They share the exact same DNA, the same blood, without ever having a mother or a father. But there is a more poetic way to look at this, something some astrophysicists call the most romantic fact in the universe, the supernova. When a star dies in a supernova, it scatters its essence across the cosmos to create new life. Now, imagine a single star that exploded, creating two separate entities from the exact same stardust. They aren't siblings in any human sense. They are two fragments of the same celestial event. They share the same primordial blood, the same cosmic signature. And here is the most fascinating part. These fragments don't just drift away. They often form what is known as a binary system, an eternal dance where two celestial bodies remain locked together, orbiting a single center. This perfectly mirrors their dynamic in the game. Caleb is the gravity that pulls, and MC is the core that pulses. They are two halves of the same event, bound by a law of physics that no human label can break. This pattern follows us into the myth. Caleb repeats a very specific phrase.
We're from the same source.
Even in Imperial Throne Song, where the English version finally uses the label siblings, Caleb's focus remains on that source.
We're from the same source.
He's not talking about having the same parents. He's talking about their primordial origin. Sibling is just the tiny social box we use to try and fit a giant cosmic bond. But this dynamic of complementarity isn't an invention. It's a physical law, and it's evident in his myth, Fallen Cosmos. In this story, they are bound by the principle of complementarity. They are destructio and construo. She is the force that destroys to renew. He is the force that builds to stabilize. They aren't alike. They are opposite poles. Look at the Othan Research Bureau reports. To those scientists, X02 and A01 were components of a planetary-level threat. Report A806 focuses on one single goal, preventing energy fusion between them. They were obsessed with stopping the restoration of that original unity. This is why they were later programmed for self-destruction if they ever got too close. The lab knew that if these two halves ever reunited, they would reclaim a power that the world simply couldn't control. But how do you even name a bond like that? Our everyday language isn't built for cosmic anomalies. This is why the translation struggles. There isn't a single word in English for two parts of the same physical law placed into human bodies. So, to explain this unique bond, I've coined a term of my own, Cogenates. This is what they actually are. Beings sharing the same primordial source and the same inevitable fate. Two souls designed to be a single, perfect unit. And this sacred bond is literally woven into their visual identity. If you look at their combat suits, X02 and A01, you'll realize they aren't just wearing gear. They are wearing a fragmented map of the Sephirot, the tree of life. In this divine geometry, Caleb is the central pillar, the axis of balance. His suit carries 3 spheres aligned with his spine: the crown, harmony, and the foundation. He is the anchor, the core that holds the structure together. MC represents the lateral pillars. She carries 6 spheres, 3 on each side, representing the dualities of wisdom and strength, love and instinct. But here is the smoking gun. If you add his 3 spheres to her 6, you get 9. But the Sephirot is made of 10. Where is the missing one? That is Malkuth, the sphere where the spiritual becomes real. It's missing from their individual designs because it's not a symbol they wear, it's an event they create. Those wings we see when they unite? That is Malkuth in action. It's the exact moment 2 separate fragments finally manifest as one divine reality. Then we have the Garden of Eden symbolism. Caleb is the only character obsessively associated with the apple. He talks about taking MC to paradise. In theology, paradise is the place of perfect unity before the original sin of separation. If you look closely, even his name hints at the Garden of Eden. Caleb's Chinese surname is Xia. In Chinese, the biblical Eve is called Xiaowa. So he literally carries the same initial character as Eve, the figure who was created from a part of another. It's a subtle but powerful nod to their shared origin. And remember the rib comment in the anniversary event? In Hebrew, the word tesela can mean rib, but it also means side. Many scholars argue the first human was a complete unit divided in half. Eve wasn't just a bone, she was Adam's other half, his other side. Just like Caleb is the other side of MC. Much as Adam and Eve were 2 sides of the same original unit, Infold went even deeper into their cultural roots to show us the ultimate blueprint, Fuxi and Nuwa. In Chinese mythology, they are the creator gods of humanity and the original Cogenates, 2 beings born from the same divine source to balance the universe. While they are traditionally called siblings, it's vital to understand that this was a later human label. Historically, in the earliest pre-Qin myths, Fuxi and Nuwa were entirely independent deities. The sibling narrative was only added centuries later to explain their inseparable bond. In their truest, most primordial form, they aren't family in a biological sense. They are the 2 halves of original chaos, the forces of yin and yang, finally reuniting. I know what you're probably thinking. Apple has officially lost it. She's starting to draw lines where they don't exist. And honestly, I don't blame you. But before you call me crazy, after weeks of research, I've realized something. There is a specific visual signature linking Caleb to the myth of Fuxi and Nuwa, a subtle thread that's easily overlooked. While many associate Caleb's leopard motif with his quiet strength and protective nature, a beautiful and likely interpretation, I believe it points to something far more profound. It was during my deep dive into the roots of Chinese mythology that I noticed a fascinating detail in ancient Han Dynasty depictions. Fuxi is traditionally shown wearing leopard skins. It is his signature as the primordial protector who mastered the wild. Suddenly, every random detail fell into place. These aren't just design choices, they are Infold's breadcrumbs. As I see it, by weaving this specific visual language into the lore, they are placing Caleb and MC directly within the myth of Fuxi and Nuwa, and by extension, the Cogenate Theory. The idea that they are 2 entities born from one shared source. And this idea of being made whole isn't just a theory, it's woven into the very lines they speak. In the Imperial Throne Song memory, MC describes Caleb's embrace. When we embrace, he seemingly wants to embed himself into my very being. He wants to return to that point in primordial chaos where we had yet to be separated. This isn't just poetic fluff. We are talking about Hùndùn. the state before the Big Bang or mythological creation, where yin and yang were one. Caleb doesn't see MC as a sister. He sees her as the part of him that was torn away. For them, this is far more than just a fleeting feeling. It is a soul-deep yearning that mirrors the very laws of the universe. Their love manifests as a physical inevitability, a gravitational pull so powerful that it defies logic. But the true beauty lies in their choice. Even knowing that reuniting could lead to their total destruction, they still choose to surrender to that pull. They aren't just two parts being forced together. They are two souls actively choosing to become one again, proving that their devotion is the only force in the cosmos that truly matters.
Gravity can't be responsible for people who fall in love.
When we look at them through this lens, as cosmic entities or cogenates, the human labels of brother or lover simply fall short. Their bond precedes any human family tie. It's something spiritual and primordial.
We will never be apart.
When we look at everything we've uncovered, the linguistic patterns, the biological markers, and finally, the visual cues, it all leads to a single, inevitable realization: that Caleb and MC are two halves of the same primordial soul. But then, why has this truth been met with such collective shock? Why was it so hard for us to see what was right in front of us? The answer lies in how the story was brought to us. For nearly a year, Western localizations followed a different path. Terms were softened and nuances were adapted, causing us to overlook a connection that is, in fact, the very core of their story. What we're feeling now is the gloss fading away, revealing a relationship that was always meant to be this complex. To wrap up, hunters, let's remember there are real people behind everything. Love and Deepspace is a rich fiction, full of myth and science, designed to move us. It's okay to disagree, but always with respect for the culture that created this work, and above all, for one another. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like to support my work and subscribe for more love and deep space explorations. Kisses from Apple, and I'll see you in the next one.
Stay tuned.